It's the Rugby World Cup on ITV. Tonight it's Ireland, strongest country of the home nations, who are in the spotlight. It's Ireland's second match in Pool D against Georgia. Brilliant atmosphere building up down there in Bordeaux as well. Ireland playing again down there in Bordeaux against the Georgians, who have a lot of players playing in France but have never won a Rugby World Cup game. Settle back and enjoy it with our commentators, Will Greenwood, and first of all, a very good evening to John Champion.
A very good evening to one and all. The Irish, of course, blessed with wonderful travelling support, and they've done their usual makeover on Bordeaux. Green reigns supreme across the city and right around this Stade Chaban Delmar. The few Georgian fans are going to have to sing with some gusto to make themselves heard this evening. The walk from the dressing rooms to the mouth of this tunnel is something of a route march, further than at most other stadiums. The other problem is that the tunnel is designed for soccer players, not lock forwards. So O'Connell, O'Callaghan and O'Kelly have been in danger of bumping their heads as they emerge on a very warm evening here in Bordeaux. The airport here hasn't seen anything like it for years. A stream of wide-bodied jets arriving all day as the invasion has gathered pace, carrying thousands of supporters, some of them fairly wide-bodied too. And what of Ireland? Eddie O'Sullivan admits the mood in the camp has bordered on a wake. His words, since the victory that felt like a defeat against Namibia. He says they've gone back to basics in training this week. They are looking backwards in the hope of moving forwards. Temperature 73 degrees, barely a breath of wind. And the two sets of players lining up in front of the Tribune of Honour in the main stand, and the assembled dignitaries ahead of the playing of the two national anthems. O'Sullivan has said to his underachievers of last week, go out and prove yourselves. Hence only one change in the team. Andrew Trimble has a fractured finger, but would have made way anyway to accommodate the return of Shane Horgan on the wing. But it's the pack that's been the focus of most critical attention. 6 Munstermen in there, and all told it's Ireland's most capped starting 15 ever, 796 caps between them. Different story with Georgia, 10 changes from the team that caused Argentina so many problems. Their aim here to win one game. They've targeted Namibia, of course. All but 2 of their squad play in France, 6 of them with clubs in the top 14. They admit to feeling at home here, but tonight Bordeaux feels like an outpost of Ireland. Such is their support. The referee, the 28-year-old barrister from England, Wayne Barnes, who had the misfortune to be in charge of Ireland's warm-up international, a so-called friendly, in Bayonne, in which Brian O'Driscoll received that serious facial injury. Happily, he recovered, and Malkas Kvirikashvili prepares to get this game underway. This time for Ireland, they need to get it right. No half measures, no uncertainty, and afterwards, surely no regrets. The World Cup has suffered a false start, but for John Hayes and company, with the big guns of Pool D lying in wait, they need a very convincing victory tonight. So, Kvirikashvili with the short kick, and Ireland gathering through Shane Horgan. Stringer and O'Gara at half-back as ever, setting a new world record, or at least equaling one tonight. 52nd time that they've partnered each other in a major international, equaling the mark of Troncon and Diego Dominguez of Italy. Gervin Dempsey caught man and ball. Georgia sure to provide a stern physical test. Wayward pass forces O'Gara backwards, and he looks to touch on that far side. Will Greenwood is alongside me.
Good evening, John. Exactly what Eddie O'Sullivan didn't want. A poor pass, basics let them down. It was great to see Shane Horgan get an early touch. I think he adds more balance to the Irish team when he plays. The intimidating figure on that right wing just gives them more of a variety of options in the back line. As you saw with the power and the frost of that first hit from the Georgians, Eddie O'Sullivan is expecting hand-to-hand combat, as always with these huge Georgians. They are an immensely physical side that must be matched, but then you must look to move them around. There is space, they're not as well organised as other international sides. There are opportunities, but they will come hard early on.
Well, it's Uroshadze who took it from the line out. And that's the captain, Zedganitsa. Will Greenwood, speaking of course from first-hand experience, he was part of the England side that played against Georgia in Perth at the last World Cup. And Georgia, as is their wont, keeping it tight, keeping it close. Number 4 with the scrum cap is the skipper, Zedganitsa. Picked up by Gogodze.
They love a good arm wrestle, the Georgians. This is what they're trying to do early on. Just test the power of the Irish front 5, take them on at close quarters. They don't have an extremely expansive game, but they've been turned over. And a chance for the Irish scrum with the big John Hayes. You talk to the Irish guys and they talk about O'Driscoll in the backline when he misses. They don't play well, but they view that when John Hayes doesn't play, Ireland also don't play well. So he's a huge bonus to have in that front row. Ireland so far, so many nearly times recently. The Grand Slam this year with that last-minute try by Van St. Clerk at Croke Park. Too many times. Occasionally they go missing on the road. 43-3 against France last year. But they've come to this World Cup. They've got belief. They've got players of O'Driscoll's quality, Darcy's quality, O'Connell in the second row. They do feel they can turn over the big teams on the big occasions. The problem they've got is it starts next week with France and then Argentina and then a quarter-final, potentially New Zealand. It just gets tougher. So they need to find some rhythm and some tempo this evening. They need to start putting those basics into practice and not concentrate on the scoreboard, concentrate on the process.
Ireland with marginally the heavier pack, certainly the more experienced. Simon needs to be okay after that stint of treatment. And Wayne Barnes may need to administer 1 or 2 instructions to the 2 front rows over their engagement.
This is where my scrummaging know-how will come into good effect here, John.
I've set aside 20 minutes later in the half for that, Will. Ireland seek to get onto the front foot for the first time in this game. Stringer waits. Ronan O'Gara. Fullback is Barkalaya, who takes it at pace and advances inside Ireland territory. Georgia were pleased with their first half display against Argentina. Less pleased with the way they perhaps inevitably fell away. Sankaradze, Virikashvili. Now Gorgodze, this monster of a second row. All 19 stone of him. Sankaradze. Now it's Urashadze.
Positive play from the Georgians, keeping the ball in hand, moving it around, looking to use their big men in the midfield. You might expect Kvirashvili to go to the boot at some stage. Tess Dempsey gets some big Georgian midfield runners charging him down, but they seem comfortable at the moment.
It's with their skipper, Zedganitsa. And Georgia have a penalty.
Strong start, very strong start. Ireland can't get their hands on the ball. Ronan, I felt he was going for touch there. I think he'd like to get O'Connell and O'Callaghan up there competing for the ball. Misses touch. The Georgians had anticipated. They covered the back area well. They did what South Africa did last night, dropped everyone deep and said, where are you going to kick? Kicked straight down the fullback's throat, and he run back with some extreme venom. And from that, they kept the ball, they maintained it, they moved it. The little scrum half, Sam Karadze, who came on as a substitute with the last 20 minutes against Argentina, looks lively. Directing play, using his big forwards, and it creates an opportunity for Georgia to take the lead. Not an easy kick, but again, not a kick that clouds mind early on. It's a shot to nothing. If you miss this sort of kick, well, it was a tough effort. It sails through, it fills you with confidence for the rest of the evening.
It's Merab Virikashvili, who plays his club rugby in France with Pau. He's the youngest player at the last World Cup at the age of 19. Well, he gave it an opportunity, but it is wide.
Yeah, we had a good result against Georgia at the start of the last World Cup, but we all needed ice baths. You know you've been in a game against these Georgians, you expect a good victory, but you know the physical challenge that they'll present will mean you do have to stand up to it. Yes, there is space out wide, but you must match them for physicality early on, and at this stage, they just seem to be winning the contact, just finding the tackles by the Ireland being made by arms rather than shoulders. And that's a brilliant take and an extremely dangerous piece of play by O'Connell.
Chukwueze taken out in the air by O'Connell. Georgia very quick to take the tap.
Not looking to see if their second row got up. They're off and away.
Doesn't say much for the team spirit. You recover at your own pace. This is Gorgodze. Kvirikashvili. And now Ujukashvili. Record try scorer for Georgia with 15. Kvirikashvili flings the long ball wide towards Shkinin, but the pass was forward, which I don't think our good friend Avtandil Kopoliani quite realised.
That was his moment. He was going to go home, and he'd scored from 100 yards against the Irish. Jason Leonard, I think, played 114 times for England, scored 1 try. I often asked him why he bothered playing.
We've talked about the physical challenge of Georgia. Well, what about from an Irish perspective? What's par for them on an occasion such as this, particularly coming off the back of the disappointing Namibia experience?
Excluding the errors they made in the first half was to come in here and cut out the errors. They've been extremely narky in training. Speaking to Gavin Duffy before the game, a good friend of mine who used to be at Harlequins, and he feels that the 8 guys who didn't get a chance last week felt they might have had an opportunity this week, which has meant in training, when the team was announced, they've dug in, they've stuck in. They're helping, but at the same time disappointed. So there's a feeling that Ireland really have to not set the record straight, but get their World Cup going. They stumbled home against Namibia. They allowed them into the game, and you could tell last week that when the chant of Allez Bleu was ringing out from the Namibians, that it hadn't gone well at all for the Irish. And Eddie O'Sullivan was extremely disappointed he sets very high standards when it comes to basics, and they fell a long way short. So this week, they'll look to cut those errors out. I do feel they looked at the scoreboard from the France